Okay, I would like to call to order the Oconee County Art and Historical Commission for October 14th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from October 12th? August 12th, thank you.
I move to approve.
Motion, and second, any,
Do I need to see them? I'm sorry, I'm over here doing.
we did not,
I emailed them out, but I forgot to make copies, so here's on your screen there.
It's good.
hearing no discussion, all in favor? Approval of the meetings? Okay. We'll move on to discussion items. Actually, first we will do our partner update. And we have Mr. Mike Feisler? Fiesler? I'm sorry.
It's all right, everybody misspells it.
Mike, the floor is yours.
Okay, oh gosh. Let me give you out some of these things. We've been trying to upgrade the museum. By the way, this is probably one of the most unique situations you can possibly have in a town, especially this size, to have 3 museums in a block. Not a contiguous block, but roughly in terms of length. Leslie's museums, actually, of course, the one in Westminster is really cool too, if you like old stores, as old guys do. Tons of fun. Thank you. What we're doing, focusing on now, is trying to get the building upgraded. We have a lease with the county for the building. We are upgrading displays, we're upgrading how we conserve the artifacts that we have. We have stopped taking items on loan simply because of the liability and the responsibility that we have, and the bookkeeping that goes with it that's attendant to that responsibility. We're relighting, getting away from halogens. I can buy LED lights with more candle power for less money than I can buy halogens. And halogens will deteriorate fabrics and all kinds of things. They fade colors and do all that sort of stuff. LEDs don't. They don't have the ultraviolet that impacts those prints and uniforms and all that sort of stuff. So we're upgrading lighting, and further, while the price for the actual bulb is roughly the same, the energy cost is significantly less, and they last much, much longer. So we're trying to cut down our overhead. It's pretty hard to do. Air conditioning kills us. It kills everybody. Electricity is the only way you can cool a building these days. We lost a window to a windstorm 2 months ago, give or take. We boarded it up. We turned it into the county. The county carries the insurance on the building. We have the check for that window. I am trying to raise some funds to replace about 7 windows right now. Those windows, that building was built in 1933. And until I put gutters on it a year ago last January, the water was sheeting down off the roof and running down the face of the building and over the windows, and that's what deteriorated that one particular window to the point where it fell apart. We did get the rest of the windows all painted and caulked and scraped to protect and preserve them as best we can. So we're slowly gaining on that part of it. We've reshuffled several of the rooms quite a little bit. We have a neat little reading room now where the library and boardroom was, because we never used it. That big board table just took up a ton of space. We've got a nice little table in there with a little tablecloth on it. We've got a little old-fashioned rail oil lamp on it because we're trying to create something just a little bit akin to homey, the farmhouse look. Homeschoolers like it. It's fun. We get our homeschoolers in there. We also have a room that is set up for what was started as our History Cadets program, which was for the kids. It kind of morphed on us. It was meant to be a little classroom for youngsters, but what it has really accomplished is that families come in and they've got small children. They would like to stay a little bit longer. Kids get bored. We can now put the kids in there because we've got some little carpeted road layouts and all that sort of stuff, little soldiers and little toy cars and all kinds of stuff. So you can put your 3-year-old in there, and mom and dad can stay longer and make it a little bit more pleasurable trip. And that has actually been evolved. We weren't prepared for that. Our guests did that for us. So all in all, we are going to be in the Bigfoot Parade. We're also setting up a booth down at the Bigfoot celebration in Westminster next weekend. If any of you would like to drive a convertible with a big banner on the side that says Coney Military Museum on it, we're glad to give you the keys. That's really volunteering. Those things are so much fun, though. Those things are so much fun. And the Veterans Day Parade this year is in Seneca, if you're not aware of that yet, on November 11th. George White, I think, is still pretty much running that one. I don't know who all's involved in that. We will be in that also. We've always been in that one. And we usually end up in the Seneca Christmas Parade. Go up just to kind of promote where Leslie and I have actually talked about making a combined banner for all of our, in fact, if you look on the back of our brochure, you'll see that old station, what the heck's that place?
Coney Station.
Coney Station?
Oh, Coney Station. Is on there. Don't invite me to these things unless you expect to get all kinds of stuff. This has absolutely nothing to do with museums, but it has a lot to do with veterans. Purple Heart Homes is an organization that is set up for veterans to widen doorways for wheelchair access, put in ramps, take out bathtubs and put in showers. The reason you're getting these is too often our biggest problem is not funding, not finding help. Our biggest problem is getting veterans to know about it. I'm sure you have a neighbor who may have diabetes or, whatever issues coming up in their health. You thought you were gonna get by with that one, didn't you?
I'll take another one.
And your neighbor, your friend, or your cousin, or whoever, maybe coworker, maybe the person who needs that service. It's all free to the veterans. Home Depot supplies materials, we supply labor. And this is coming up. I started this in Oconee County 8 years ago. This is our 8th annual. Toys for Tots. Marine Corps Reserve Toys for Tots. So much fun. Jump on your motorcycles and come join us. I have a spare one, actually. I'll let somebody ride if they want.
I'll pass on that.
You can drive the convertible.
That I wouldn't mind.
There you go. And, come, take a minute, sometime when you have just a little bit of time. All the museum, you guys are open Tuesday through Saturday. And the one in Westminster is open 3 days, like the rest of us. We're open along with Luther's Museum of Cherokee. Or are they? I don't even know what Luther's hours are. 3 days a week?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 11 to 4. I think they may be a little bit longer. Stop by sometime. It's really kind of an amazing trio of really cool artifacts and It's pretty cheap entertainment, especially if you got company from out of town or whatever. I can't think of too much else. We're doing so doggone many things. We got so much stuff going on. I just came from Purple Heart Homes project over in Pendleton on my way here. But we're really gaining on making the museums more user-friendly, and we're taking a lot of input. You know, in fact, that's another good reason to come in. Stop in and see what you think. If you notice something, we welcome criticism, because that's actually a pretty factual reaction to the way the thing looks. But it's changed a lot. If you have not been in the military museum in the last 18 months, 2 years, you might not recognize some of the rooms. We've changed them up that much, so.
The murals are still the same.
Oh, yes, they're magnificent.
I know, and Phil, I'm wondering, if those murals, there, how many, 7 that Jim and Donna did?
Yeah, they're on both sides of the stairway and all the
Right.
hall.
Yeah, those murals, have you seen them? Okay, they're just amazing.
Jim and Donna hear us.
Yeah, and I think that should be part of the Oconee Mural Trail. It's, we were talking about the ones that are inside, and there's one in Seneca that Melody did inside. So if we could add those murals to our mural trail, I think it'd be a good idea.
They are magnificent.
Oh, they are, yes.
And Jim's just in, I don't know, a couple months ago, stops in once in a while.
Uh-huh.
They are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Have all of you seen them? No, maybe? They basically start with what, Revolutionary Spanish-American War, don't they?
Well, I think it was all the wars that America has been in, right?
Right, and they go up the stairs and then around the hall and back down. And they are all done by hand, and they're just
They
absolutely
did it on
gorgeous.
scaffolding, and Jim
Yeah.
does not like heights.
I want a bigger museum. I don't know how to take those murals with me,
Yeah, I know.
so. Yeah, that's one more unique thing. You see something about often enough that, when you first see it, it's absolutely magnificent, but you kind of get used to it because you get busy doing all of the other little piddly stuff and the bookkeeping and the accounting and all that sort of thing. But quite frankly, those murals probably are the most unique of anything you're going to find in most museums. Just really, Luther's done a great job. You guys got some neat stuff down there. So we got 3 museums. If you haven't been there for a while, why, slide on by. I got ice water in the fridge, and I'll make a pot of coffee.
Yeah,
In your brochure, it talks about the bricks fundraiser. Where are the bricks?
Around the flagpole, the Walk of Honor.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are going to be promoting sales on that. Any people who are either members or board members, we also discount them, so that if you have a family or somebody you want to honor, whether they be alive or dead. And we're now doing double-sized bricks, 8 by 8, which are really nice. We've done, Borg Warner gave us a very nice donation last year, and we did a couple of 8 by 8 for them. So we're trying. Our docent is utterly amazing. She ain't the quality of the History Museum has. Okay.
I have a question. Okay, on the Purple Heart Homes, if someone wanted further information, maybe I'm overlooking it, who would be the contact person or?
Well, that's something we don't have on there. I have it on the trifolds because my number is on the trifolds, but not in, you don't have a Purple Heart Homes trifold.
No, sir. That's okay, just in the unlikely event, if someone wanted further information, it would be nice to know which direction.
I'm the contact person because I'm the construction manager,
Okay.
because I'm the licensed contractor. Did I give everybody a card?
No, I did not get one.
I think I got one.
Sir.
Thank you.
I'm kind of the go-to guy for that kind of stuff, so feel free.
sound like you're a busy man, aren't you?
Yes.
Pardon?
You're a very busy man.
Oh, I'll tell you who's busy. Jessica Glimpf, the gal that's running the Bigfoot thing.
Oh,
She's a nurse practitioner. She's teaching nursing classes. She's running that thing. I just talked to her yesterday or the day before she called me to make sure we were gonna be there at the thing. I would not want her job. She'd run me into the ground.
Any questions for Mike and the Oconee Military Museum? I really appreciate you coming and sharing a little bit about the museum.
Thanks, guys, appreciate it. Nice meeting you. Most of you.
Thank you.
If you get a
Come down, come
chance,
see us.
yeah, get a chance, go by and see them, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Make a day of it and hit all three of them.
And you can bring donuts too.
What are your times on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays? It's on here, 1 to 4. I see it.
11 to 4.
I see it,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
11 to 4, okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Okay, our next discussion item is the ordinance for the 2021-11 ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
Update.
So we have, to this point, we have provided you criteria which you have voted on for something that would fit inside this ordinance. And we have, for a couple meetings, sent a few questions to the attorney, and I have sent those all back out to everyone. And the path that we're on is that as long as everybody is ready, we would proceed to a public input section where we would do a press release with the ordinance and the criteria and ask for any kind of input or anything that would be listed in terms of that ordinance. And then you would help compile that list back together with assistance from the attorney on what's eligible and what would not fit in there. And we would get that back to county council. So we're at that point now where if everybody's ready, and you're happy with what you have voted on in terms of criteria, that we can take that next step. We've had some discussions, Leslie and I have, and, the discussion has been right around the public input phase and how long should that last? And we originally said 45 days, so unless there's a reason to change that, I think we'll just go in that direction. And the ordinance itself is, the way it's crafted in the jurisdiction that the county has, public property and unincorporated other areas of the county, has to meet one of those two things before it goes to that next set of criteria. And once it does that, then you can determine if it's eligible to be listed on there. And then once you complete a list of all those things that are turned in, and we as a staff will also compile everything that we know about. And we'll all put that together and then be able to send that back to, through the attorney back to the county council. So at this time, I'm entertaining any questions, any final thoughts from the commission.
We had a big discussion about private property. What's that?
Unfortunately, the county does not have jurisdiction over private property.
Okay.
So that cannot be included in something that the county drafts.
Okay, all right, because I know we talked about that quite a bit. All right.
I have a couple of thoughts that I would like to share just from a personal point of view, if you
Yes, sir.
will. Okay, I think it goes without saying that most likely we all understand that truthfully, an ordinance is a law. So in the true aspect of what we are being asked to do is comprise the law. Now, I think that also it's very superfluous, if you will, the section D under the scope, which is section 1-102 for County Ordinance 2021-11. And I use that word superfluous whenever I compare it to the City of Walhalla's ordinance, which is 2020-20, which was adopted on the 19th of January, 2021. And for that City of Walhalla ordinance, section 4 states, and I will read it, "It shall be prohibited to climb on, attach oneself to, attach anything to, deface, damage, alter in any way any historic marker, monument, memorial, tombstone, or plaque. End of section. Therefore, that brief statement, in my opinion, covers what we are being asked to contribute through section D. I stopped short of making a motion that we, as the Historical Commission, continue to address this in the form of asking county council to readdress this county ordinance 2021-11 and totally eliminate section D, because from comparison purposes, basically the County of Walhalla ordinance, which I'm looking at it from a legal standpoint, I am not an attorney. Okay, if it's good enough for the town of Walhalla, then perhaps it's reasonable to at least ask for the county's point of view, if it is really necessary for us to carry on with section D, or can that truthfully be eliminated? Because it basically says verbatim in section B, section 1-102 scope for the county. Basically, it says exactly the same thing as section 4 for the town of Walhalla. That's my thought.
To respond to that, the commission has a couple of options. One is to proceed on the path we've been going down. Two, the council and the attorney is also open to amendments to the ordinance. So you could send back an amendment to the ordinance before you proceed any further and get a response on that particular item. That would be up to the commission to decide which direction they would like to do. But either one of those options is fine, and then you would get a response and we would readdress it at the next meeting. Absolutely.
I think my only comment is when we were first presented the ordinance, it had already been approved by county council. And I had the notes on that same section of if the Art and Historical Commission was going to be involved, why did we hear about it only after it had already been approved, the ordinance had already been approved? So those were, my comments on it. I personally would feel at this point, we have a good path. We had talked about continuing, and when we send the list, to ask for an amendment on some items. But, we, as far as the criteria, we did vote and approve for the criteria. So,
I think the question that Mr. Lombard is asking is, do you send an amendment back requesting whether or not there should be a list, or whether it should be a very set forth criteria in the ordinance? Am I saying that correct, Mr. Lombard?
Well, somewhat. I mean, I guess honestly, I feel like that the responsibility, as it states, is on our shoulders to specifically determine the ones that will be protected by law. And in the unlikely event, if something is damaged that we have not listed, then in all honesty, if it were approached right, legally, we can be held liable, because we are making the decision on what will be part of the law. And if I understand correctly, as a member of this commission, contrary to some boards that I've been on, where the board members are protected through an insurance policy, I'm not aware of such coverage for myself on this commission. Do you know if that is?
I'm not aware of.
Okay,
of
right,
anything like that.
right, and maybe I'm reaching too far. However, I mean, we're talking about a law here that's being established, and we're being asked to contribute, basically, in my opinion, the foundation of the law.
Do you feel like they put that in there under the assumption that they thought a list already existed? And that it was more of that we would have that list and could just, that it was already established?
You know, I wish I could answer that question. What I really would like to say as an initial response, in my opinion, this took place during the time whenever there was a big brouhaha about Confederate monuments and them being brought down, and it was a knee-jerk reaction that was pushed through to prevent that, and the verbiage is here, and now the details are to be taken care of. If you want to know how I truthfully feel. Did that answer the question?
No, it does. I guess we're just still discussing. So, you know, at this point, we either have to, we have to talk about it and make a decision. I feel, I don't really like the idea of continuing on and then asking for an amendment or saying, here's the work, but could you please change this?
No.
If it helps, there hasn't been any pressure on when is this coming back to council. There hasn't been any time constraints. So if there's an amendment or a question, then maybe I encourage you to put that out there to get some direction on whether or not that would be acceptable or not. If there's a cause for pause, if you will, then maybe that's something that we want to send back just for a question.
Right, and Madam Chair, I fully agree. I mean, I don't think that we need to continue or go down one road which has been started down and continue and then try to redirect again. And I hesitated to even bring this up because of the past vote that we had, which I was involved in. However, after more thought and deliberation, and especially since there is no timeline, if you will, I mean, I think that truthfully, in my opinion, as important as this is, I mean, we are contributing due diligence.
There is, any amendment that would be sent back would go back to the committee of council that created the start of this ordinance, which is the Law Enforcement and Safety Committee of Council. So any amendment that you would pass would go back to the attorney. He would then present it to that committee to determine how they address that in part of the ordinance. In this particular case, we're asking to protect the items that are listed without making a list. Is that, I mean, that's what I'm hearing, is let's protect the things that fall in the jurisdiction that we can, but let's not make a list to put the responsibility on all encompassing a list.
Correct. I mean, in reality, in simplified terms, and I know that's the wrong word to use whenever we're dealing with legalese. However, in simplified terms, Section D could be eliminated.
That would be a decision for the commission to make whether or not to proceed at this point or to send that back in the form of an amendment for consideration.
Right, to even ask, I mean, for consideration, if that section could be removed, okay? I mean, would that be inappropriate to make a motion and have a vote to ask for that? I mean, like,
No, you
properly, I don't want to keep involving Mr. Root. I mean, I know that he's busy as well. I think that the more legit, if you will, or the more formal the approach at
Yeah,
this
you would
point.
simply make a motion to request an amendment based on what you read and your comparison to the town of Walhalla and see if it could be removed and or simplified. And then if that's the vote of the commission, then we would then at this point send it back to him and get a response for the November meeting.
Okay. Well, so that being said, I mean, I'm make a motion that for County Ordinance 2021-11, that the proper authorities are contacted, and we may have to reword this exactly, that they are contacted and asked about possibly removing Section D from Section 1-102 scope.
So there's a motion, is there a second?
Melody,
Millie?
seconded.
A second. So we have a motion and a second to basically ask, to send it back with an amendment to remove Section D and/or simplify the ordinance, is what I'm hearing.
Remove Section D, which in my opinion, I mean, and that's not needed to stay, but I mean, that would simplify it. From one aspect.
Probably, I think, to remove Section D and simplify the
My motion is to simply remove Section D.
So, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So we'll ask for that amendment.
So I'll type this up and send it back to Mr. Root, in terms of, and I do have a copy of the Walhalla ordinance. I'll share that in that
Okay.
email as well. And just, and say that's the pleasure, is the request to consider that amendment, and then we'll get a response and go from there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our next item for discussion is the Mural Trail, criteria, basically. Or do you want to do more, is there an update though of?
I don't have any other update. I just gave Melody hers tonight. Suzette has all the Senecas and Libby's. We'll go to her to start getting those up. At our last couple of meetings, we've had conversation about adding to this mural trail. And the commission wanted to set some criteria as to what would qualify something to be part of that trail. So that's the reason this is on there, is for you as a commission to discuss, what are the things you must, and it could be one thing, it could be three things, whatever you decide. And then we would set that criteria so that if something comes up and you want to add a mural to the trail, get the information on the website, get the QR code, it has to meet X, Y, and Z, or X, or whatever that is. So this was part of the commission's talk of setting some criteria, so that's why it's on here, for you to kind of discuss what that looks like.
So
Excuse.
as of now, we have no criteria. We
So
just
as-
have the
Yeah,
list of,
when we started, we just made a list of all the murals that had been completed by the
Okay.
artist. There was
Okay.
no criteria. There's nothing to say there has to be criteria. You can do them on a case-by-case basis if you would like. But I would like some systematic approach to it, to say that let's vote on each one as they come up to add, rather than just kind of giving direction to. That way the commission all approves the murals that are added to it. So right now we have the 20, and then, just tonight we had the one inside Seneca City Hall, and then the 7 inside there. So I would like the commission to either vote on those as a commission to add, and then we would go through the process to get the information to go on the website, or set up some sort of criteria that you have to meet to be on that website.
I would think that outdoor murals have to be publicly accessible 24/7. If there's a locked gate or whatever, I guess we could discuss that individually, but most of the murals, I think, in Seneca right now, the outdoor ones are accessible
Right.
24/7. They might not always be on public property, but the sidewalk is right
You
there.
can see them, yeah.
So they don't have to jump through hoops to get in there. And then maybe we could have a different criteria for the indoor or the murals that are only accessible 5 days a week during business hours, that people are aware that they are there, the owners understand that people are going to be coming in to see them. And they could be in a secondary list, but still published on that criteria. But they should be open 5 days a week.
Well, that's gonna be difficult for the
What
museum.
are your hours?
3 days a week,
3 days a
3
week.
days?
yeah.
Okay, well,
I would offer, to that is just that we list the hours where they are.
right, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
So that if it's limited hours, then
Yeah,
we can make sure that that's
but
part
the
of the
QR code, I
information.
mean, this can tell them everything.
Make sure that's part of the
And,
information
yeah,
that's listed.
but I think that everybody, if, everybody should have the opportunity to see all the artwork, at least have the information available when they come into town and be able to see it.
Did you add the cat murals to that list, Phil?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
Because I was waiting on this base list to see which way it was going.
Okay, all right, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, so those 12, there's 12 or 20? How many's on there?
There's 14,
Okay.
because there's one on each end that are the same, that talk about what it is, and then there was like a little description of then there's one more new description that's smaller that was added on either end. But there's 12 cats, front and back, and then there's a description of, excuse me, how Ramcat Alley got its name, and then on the back, it talks about the artist and the author. So there are 14.
Yeah, so I was just looking for some direction as to how we want to add them. If you want to do them by case, then we can just vote on them as a commission. And then once we receive all the information, we can get it added to the website and get a QR code created. I just wanted some sort of criteria to say either the commission votes on it or we set a criteria that staff can approve and get them added so that it's something consistent. And if it's just a case by case where they're coming to the commission, that's fine with me too. I really like the public accessibility and at least listing the hours if it's an indoor. So that if you-
If it's indoor, where do the QR codes go? I mean, is there some sort?
Yeah, that
It
was
would- It would have to go indoor. We would still give it to the artist and say, where could it go indoors? And they may be a little smaller. They may not be
Okay.
quite as big
Yeah,
as
because the
that.
business owner would be.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to have permission from wherever it's at.
That was gonna
indoors.
be my thing, so, I guess my question is, do we need to make a decision as to whether it's case by case? And a case by case that we, the commission, then, judge it on the criteria that we're establishing, and discuss it. So, because, because I'm just thinking, would it be better to have already had whoever wants to bring it to the commission as a case, to have already spoken,
That would be my
to
ultimate
them.
goal.
So we already know that the property owner
Yep.
is aware, they already know where they would put it, and that all of that background information has already taken place before we basically, as a commission, do a litmus test.
Yes.
And then if at our scheduled meeting, we judge it against the criteria and it meets the criteria, then we can give staff the directive that, yes, we approve this, take the steps to go ahead and add it, or maybe we have to have further discussion and it can come back after, at the next meeting.
I know that myself, I asked them while I'm doing it. So as for me, I can say that the owners are aware.
Right.
But maybe the artists who do future murals have to include that as part of their, whenever they approach the business owner, or whenever they talk about the contract or whatever, they can talk to them about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you say, I mean, realistically, if someone is already painting inside a business, I mean, am I looking at it wrong? I mean, I would think that some discussion certainly takes place with the business.
Yeah, well, you just talk about what they want, you don't necessarily talk about them being part of a public tour.
Right.
But I think that if the artist could be made aware that there's that option, and then they could talk to the owner and ask them if they'd be willing to let people just come in and get their picture taken,
Right.
But I know the people that I've talked to, they are more than willing to let people come in, because it brings people into their
Good
business.
coverage, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, and they like that attention. So I can't see, I don't see a lot of people saying no.
I don't think that they would say no, but I feel like it's one of those checks and balances that we as board members can take on that responsibility so that staff doesn't have to. So that by the time that we come to staff and say, we want to add this one, we've already checked all of this, does this meet the criteria? Yes, it does not, it does it, or it does not, and then they can start their work, instead of us just calling out
The staff, I mean, I guess I'm not understanding, the staff is who?
So if there's a mural in place already, and let's say that they did not anticipate there being a public trail, then before we go and put up a QR code and folks going into that business for maybe not their business, just to see the mural, we want permission, is all we
Okay,
want.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, do you know anybody who's working on any murals right now? I mean, I'm not
Right.
personally right now. I have some that are getting ready to start. But I'm sure that, in the future, we can certainly do that, because I'm getting ready to start, there's 2 of them indoors, and I'm pretty sure that both of them are be willing to, have people come in.
well, I guess, for instance, so tonight we called out the city,
Seneca City Hall.
City Hall, and we just called out the murals at at Patriots Hall. We just sat up here and we called them out, but we didn't sit here and go through and say, okay, is it outdoors or indoors? They're indoors, okay, they're indoors, so do we have permission to put them on the trail, knowing that it may disrupt City Hall to have that?
I'm pretty sure that's a public building, so it probably wouldn't be disruptive. As far as any other, like, private businesses, maybe. But I know I've talked to everybody, and, they're okay.
I hear you that you talk to them.
I don't understand then, I don't understand.
I'm talking about process and procedures. I'm talking about formalization of
So, okay,
criteria.
what
So
does that mean? Do you have to have a contract?
It
or-
means maybe we do have a one-page form that says, that us as commission, before we sit down and call it out to Phil to go add a QR code, we, as a commission member, have filled out this form that says, name a mural. Where is it at? Is it indoor, outdoor? If it's indoor, have you spoken to the property owner and have them sign off that they are okay for us to add this?
Isn't that what I'm saying? Is
Well,
that what I'm saying?
Do you
Can I
have a
interrupt?
form?
No,
Can I-
but I mean, isn't that what I'm saying? I haven't needed a
I
form
think
so far.
I think we're doing the same thing, it's just from an artist standpoint, you do
I'm
that
not-
during your process of
Right,
picking.
I'm not sure, but.
Okay,
from a-
I get it,
have a
I
form.
get it,
And
I get it.
from a decision standpoint, they're not painting them, so they're wanting to make sure that everybody's on the
Right,
same page.
but I mean, I can have a form, that's easy enough. I have typed some up, if that's what's necessary. But, it's pretty much informal. In Westminster, it's, everybody's like family, and then you talk, and it's like,
Sure.
and they take you at your word, and it's not, a little bit different, I guess, some
Yeah.
places.
I think just from the commission standpoint, just to make sure that we cover and everybody knows exactly what we're voting on, that we say, here's the name of the mural, the business has approved us to be on there. They don't mind having a QR code either on the inside or outside, and then we can then get the information added to it.
Okay.
It's just a set of criteria.
But I
for
have
us
a
to-
form, I can send you it.
Oh, perfect.
I have to dig it up, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I did have a contract, ready to go.
Okay, can I comment as well? I think that, right, like has been said, I mean, I think that realistically, the business or property owner, that it would be wise, in my opinion, to have some type of signed agreement. And realistically, I mean, if the commission is endorsing it, then I don't see why we couldn't even, I mean, that's something that possibly we can, is it okay to rely on the county attorney to get input on, I mean, if, the way that I see it as far as a form, if we are putting the stamp of approval on the mural as the commission, then there needs to be some unified form, okay, that truthfully is approved most likely by the commission as well. If that letter, that signed off agreement is going to have to be part of the approval process before it even gets to us to say, okay, we approve this. I mean, the paperwork's in place, it's liked because of the design or whatever, and it's approved or it's not approved. That's just one piece of the puzzle, if you will. It's the way that I see that.
I'm just saying, from my perspective, I am not this is coming from a board standpoint, not an artist standpoint. So you actually have a unique situation where you are a commission member and an artist, and have done some of these murals. So when I'm saying we need permission, it's not the permission, it's you bringing it forward not as an artist, but you bringing it forward as a commission member. And that's what I'm trying to just have a formalized process moving forward so that we are not just, it's not just discussion, that we can have history of how these additional murals were added to the list. That's all I'm looking for, is a checks and balance of who decided and why did they decide it, and for us to do the work before it comes and we ask staff to do the work, because it would help them as far as, once we approve a mural, then they have to gather the information for the website, they have to order a code, they have to print the code, and just to kind of help them along in that process. And it doesn't need to be, I think, a huge form, but just something to put in the filing cabinet is what I was thinking.
I've heard three things. I've heard publicly accessible if it's outdoors. The hours that the business is open if it's indoors, and is the business owner's approval. If those three things are completed, then I think you're at a point where the commission can vote to add it to the trail, and then we can start gathering the information and ordering the stuff. That's what I'm hearing. Is that
That's,
everybody? Okay.
One other thing, I was with Jim Jers yesterday or the day before, and we were walking around to see where we're going to place these QR codes by the murals. And Jim talked to several people in the city of Seneca, and they didn't think that the QR codes are going to stick on some of the places, like on the brick walls and that type of thing. So we went to Blue Mountain Printing, which is on North First Street in downtown Seneca, and they printed up or cut for us something that's kind of a metally plastic type thing. It's white. And so we put the QR codes on that, and then they're going to just be drilled into the surface so that they stay. Because the guy that Jim works with a lot, who's helped us with a lot of the things with the murals, didn't think that that was gonna stay, that stickiness was gonna stay. So he said we need to put it on something else. So Melody, I can give you the information, I think it was $5 a piece for each one, so it's not terribly expensive. But it's a nice surface, and we put it on there, and it's white with the QR code, and it doesn't take a lot. One of the guys who works for the city is going to screw them in there, and they should last a lot longer.
I thought that the material was to be on the sidewalks and,
We left that up to the artist.
okay.
So what, the artist that put it together, let them pick the best location.
Well, there are several places, Aubrey, where there's not a sidewalk right there. There's grass. There's probably 3 or 4 of the places.
Yeah.
You can't put it on the sidewalk. It has to be on a brick wall.
Yeah, it could be either or. They're,
Yeah.
and they're gritty, so that if they are on the sidewalk, they can be stepped on. But they're also made to stay on the building. But that's fine. I got no problem with that.
Okay.
I'll put together a quick form. I'll email it to everybody. I don't think it's a major deal. I think it's just something that we have in place that you can physically look at when you're voting on something to say, here's what this is.
Okay.
And let's vote on this, and then we'll take the next step. Is that good?
Yeah.
And with those 3 items.
Okay, and one other thing, I was going to call the Journal when our plaques are all up in Seneca and have them come out and do an interview with Jim Jurist and talk about, the mural, because a lot of people aren't gonna know about this, about the murals. So we also may have the QR code in the paper,
I
possibly.
think that
Is that-
everybody who has murals should be included in that.
Yeah, well, this, we're gonna
So-
talk about Seneca.
If it's
So
a
the goal-
trail,
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about the trail, but I don't know if they're gonna go around and,
Right.
I can let them see all the names of everything.
So the goal was that we were gonna put out a press release from the county.
Okay.
And these were up,
Okay,
and go that route. I don't mind, you saying that we put them up in Seneca, but we're gonna do a press release that
Okay.
lists them all and all the artists.
okay. Is it okay if I do it in Seneca?
Yes,
Yep.
I would prefer if you let me do that press release and you include that with your,
Okay,
if they're gonna come out and take a picture, that way they've got the full press release that lists them all with all the artists.
okay. How, is that gonna be like within a couple of weeks, a month, or
I
what?
can have it done by Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, okay. All right, good. All right.
Yeah.
Thank
I'll
you.
send that to you when I get it done.
Okay, thank you. Melody. Did you cut your arm?
my cat,
What?
my cat. Okay.
Okay,
Is that good? Everybody good with that?
questions on that?
I got,
Um,
Yeah, he bit me.
Okay. So our next item was FY '22 planning. We're kind of already into the year, but we have not spent any money this year, so we still have $7,500 in our budget. We've carried this item over since July, but do we want to discuss this tonight? Do you wish to move this to next month? Let me also kind of preface it as if you have ideas prepared to talk about, I think maybe we should talk about it.
so this money has to be spent by the end of the year?
June 30th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could easily push it to November and keep tracking along. We'll eventually get to it. But ideas is what's gonna drive the conversation. So,
I think the only thing that we had carried over from the last fiscal year was was a suggestion for a mural calendar. And then should any other historical markers come up, which I don't think there's anything on file.
I haven't had any requests.
Official.
And I'm not saying that that's something we have to do. That was just the only thing I've had in my notes that has carried over. So I'll pose it this way. Does anyone have any ideas tonight that they wish to discuss for the FY '22 planning? Otherwise, I move that we add this to next month's discussion items.
I'll remind everyone that November is one of the months that we have a meeting following us. So the November 18th meeting is at 5 PM and not 6. So 5 PM, November 18th, and there is a 6 PM meeting after us. So we would probably want to be done 15 till 10 till 6, so that we can do a quick change out and get the other commission in place.
Like,
So,
okay, I just have a question. Can someone just educate me for general purposes, if you will, okay, for the historic markers that we see out and about? What is the process? I mean, basically in a nutshell, if it's that simple, I mean,
you want to answer that?
There's not a process.
I was going, typically an idea is brought forth, and then, in order for the state to qualify it, information is sent to the state, and they'll determine if it meets the criteria for a marker, and if it does, this commission has traditionally funded the ones in the county that qualifies. And we have a list of
Yeah, we have a list of what's been done.
what's been done, and, I mean, just roughly off the top of my head,
15,
15 to 20 that's been done by this commission.
and if the state puts a stamp of approval on it, if you will, it's the state archives or what, I mean, is
Yeah,
that, is that
the
the?
Department of Archives and History.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a,
makes it a little more kosher, if you will.
yeah, that's what allows them, that's why they all look alike. They're all being approved by
Uniform,
the
let's
state.
see.
I know this commission has talked about the potential for putting a process on it at the local level and making an application that people can fill out to ask to start that process. With the budget that you have and the cost of the marker, we're not talking about a lot of markers every year.
No.
Maybe one, maybe
They're
two.
about $3,000 a piece.
Right,
Start to
and
finish.
have you ever seen like where one was, I guess from the commission's point of view, where one was kind of in the works, if you will, and maybe like $1,000 was budgeted this year, and then looking ahead, I mean, you know, 2 years from
you
now.
have-
this
There
is
was
what
there
we're-
was a time when the commission tried to do one a year because we had a list out there that they wanted to accomplish. We completed that list, and up until now, we haven't had any more brought to us. So if something's brought to us, that's when we would look at the commission and determine, is that something we can afford this year? Is that something that we can push to next year?
Right, but does that make sense what I'm saying, like, okay, like for $7,500 that's there now, okay? If an application is in process or such, okay, is that unrealistic, I guess, from the budgeting point of view? And this is just speculation, if you will. So like this year, okay, we're gonna mark $1,000 for this project that's in the works. Next year, you know, hopefully we'll be able to.
Spread it out a little bit.
Does that make sense what I'm
It does make
saying?
sense, but we have to zero out every June 30th,
Uh-huh,
and so you can't carry it over.
oh, okay,
So,
okay,
and
okay.
in order to order the marker, you've got to pay the whole
You've
amount.
got, I got you,
So
okay,
it
yeah,
would need to be something you would plan for,
uh-huh,
and say, okay, we don't have that now.
Gotcha.
It's gotta be done next year. But we would have to pull the entire, I think it was $2,750 was the last one we did. So it's between that and $3,000 total.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
I
thank-
do, personal opinion as being someone who's managed this for a while, I do think the public doesn't necessarily know that this is possible. We've never put out a call that said, hey, if you want a historical marker, or know, you know, of one that would be a possibility, let us know. And so I personally think that would be a good move to just formalize and make some sort of application process, or at least call out, so that we can get the ball rolling and be sure we're doing it fairly and getting that accomplished within the year. Because I know usually it takes a while, and there have been times where we've had to sort of just move the project along in a quicker way.
Yeah, well, thank you, I knew there was a process of some type, I just wasn't sure. Okay.
You wanna bring something to the meeting?
Yeah, I'm up for, I mean, if y'all are wanting to move in a particular direction on that, I can do whatever, if that's showing you what a,
Would y'all be okay if we put together a form that the public could request and fill out?
Did. I thought we,
did we? Maybe, did we start on that?
I thought we did.
I'll go back and look.
That-
We haven't had one to request since then. If we did, it's probably why I'm drawing a blank. But I'll go back and look.
The last one was I thought it was the last one I was familiar with was the hillbilly.
Yeah, they brought that one forth just informally. I know that,
And I thought that's where we started talking about it.
probably.
But,
I'll
Yeah,
double check that form. I'll double
definitely,
check that.
because that could
Yeah,
be,
we can
that
pick it
could
back
be,
up.
a project, but, okay. Any other, comments? We've reminded on the 5 PM for November 18th. Okay. I would just say, since if keep thinking about ideas of that $7,500 and what we might want to utilize that for, so that if we can get a plan in place, definitely do that. Otherwise, I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second. And all in favor? All right, then when we are